Oh, I'm good. It's supposed to be 82. Okay, well, let's do this and let's see how play this is for it. Oh, and then the last one, sorry. 10:51.
We are, yeah.
You know, that's one of those. So, Jane, yeah,
Good morning. Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill Unitarian Universalist. I'm Alexa Adamo Valverde, a member of the Worship Associates Ministry, and our interim minister, Jenn Kapranov, is preaching this morning. We want to welcome any visitors or newcomers to our church and call your attention to the special note for you on the back of the order of service. Welcome guests and newcomers. After service, please join us for our in-person Sunday social. We also welcome those of you attending online. Please know that lyrics to hymns and all elements of our service may be found on the live stream screen, and a complete order of service, including weekly announcements, is available via the link in the Sunday morning email and on our church's website. If you could, please turn off or silence any cell phones during our service to maintain a worshipful experience. Whoever you are, whomever you love, However you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Now we will hear from Brenda Rogers, co-chair of the Share the Plate Committee.
Good morning. I'm Brenda Rogers, as she said, co-chair of Share the Plate. I think I learned my first real lesson about giving from my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Roberts. Did any of you have those little autograph books that you passed around to your friends, and they wrote little verses like roses are red, or violets are blue, and then they'd have some stupid little thing? Anyway, my teacher wrote in my book, and I've kept it in my head all these years, "Give to the world the best that you have, and the best will come back to you." And as a child, I pondered this quote, and through the years, I have learned the meaning of that. Giving brings far more joy than receiving. Our community church gives in so many ways. We give through our time, through our talent, as we saw last night, and also through our donations. And one way is through the Share the Plate connections that support organizations that we as members support through our labor as well as our donations. Last week, we heard about the homes being built by Habitat for Humanity, one of those organizations that we support through our biannual Share the Plate collections. So I'm here to encourage you to complete applications for a charity that you want our congregation to support. Next, on Sunday, April the 28th, that's the last day that you can submit an application for Share the Plate for the July through December 2024 period. So go to our website, find out how to apply, and we will move forward with looking at the applications. Also, I encourage you to join our committee, for there is nothing more rewarding than giving through our volunteer work as well as through our financial resources. So come to my table after at the coffee hour and find out more. I thank you, this congregation, that is so generous with our time, our resources, and our talents. Thank you.
And please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, number 1019, Everything Possible, in the blue hymnal.
So I don't know if we've ever sung this hymn. It's a congregational hymn. The community church singers have done it for the coming of age service, and it's a little un-hymn-like, but we thought it was important to do it because of the topic today. I just want to read a little something by Fred Small, the composer. He said, I wrote Everything Possible in 1983 at the request of a lesbian mother trying to raise her 9-year-old son amidst the pressures of toxic masculinity. The song took off in the late 1980s when the Flirtations picked it up, leading to a performance by LGBTQ choruses around the world. So that's the context of this song. So we have 2 experienced singers helping to lead you. So let's give it a try.
Closer to you.
At the end of your knockabout day.
such a one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
Today's call to worship is based on a true story by UU sabbatical minister Lee Kinby. A burst of sunlight appears through leafy branches. This story is for the living, the changing, the becoming. This story is for losing the script of your life, the chapters about who you are in other people's stories. This story is for the other story that was supposed to show you how to get where they expected you to go. This story is for skipping the directions, coloring outside the lines, painting not by number, but by silence, by wild abandon, with a brush you made yourself. From light deep inside, startling, vivid, a new story that already knows you. Come, let us worship together. For our chalice lighting, please join me in reading them if you wish to do so. Yesterday, our distant ancestors gathered around the flame to share their stories and find comfort. Tomorrow, our descendants will gather round a flame, taking of a life we will never know. But today, it is we who gather here around this flame, seeking, believing, and being together.
Every day he fought and fought, through every trial he was set. Not just for survival, but approval from someone he'd never met. And all he really wanted was a father to be proud, to cheer on his achievements from those cheap seats in the clouds, to know him and to claim him, to be more than a name he threw around. Men trailing behind her, attracted to the springtime in her hair. A mom always reminding her beauty was her privilege to bear. And all she really wanted was a little time alone, some food and conversation and adventures of her own. Now she's trapped between two worlds, caught between a husband and a home. Stories are too terrible to tell. Myths and archetypes and allegories cast a spell, smoothing our experience, a pearl hidden glistening in a shell. He heard his father call, he just didn't pay him any mind. He wasn't worried about the fall, escape was not what he had come to find. And all I really wanted was a light by which to see, a glimpse of my horizon and a truth to set me free. And when I saw it all complete, I shed those wings and fell back to the sea.
Each week, we take time in our service to consider the joys and sorrows of the members of this congregation. If you have a significant joy or sorrow that you would like to share, please come down to either side, and in your turn, put a stone in the water, come to the microphone, state your name, and then please share your joy or sorrow with us.
I'm Brenda Rogers, and I'm just wanting to thank all of the leaders of our spiritual education programs. It's been such a joy to participate in the ones that I've had an opportunity, and our church just provides so many opportunities for us to grow spiritually and in other ways. Thank you.
I have 3 stones. The first one is for my mom's partner of 30 years who suffered a really bad fall last Sunday evening and is still unable to stand or walk and is in a ton of pain and is being moved into a rehab facility today. My second one is because this week, someone who was a huge part of my life for 15 years died tragically and unexpectedly, and she was only 46, and she has kids in high school. And the third one is actually a joy. I found a new therapist for my 15-year-old, and he seems like he's going to be amazing.
I'm Rachel Rose, and I have so much joy this morning. I wasn't able to attend last Sunday, but I had the honor and privilege of celebrating the immense gift that is Marian Hirsch at her Silver Jubilee, and the amount of love and support and connection that this community has with the gifts that she offers was so uplifting, and I will never forget that evening. So thanks to all who are part of that day and every day. And the next, as if that weren't enough, my beloved friend and colleague celebrating what she brings. Last night, I got to be witness to the miracle that is the community connection that Glenn provides as the director of this incredible music program. So many talented people, so much joy, and so much energy and creativity, but Glenn is what makes that possible, and I so appreciate that ministry here. And a special treat was that I got to perform with Ben Bastianatano a young person whose talents are being uplifted by our community, and with my best friend and husband of 25 years, with whom I have never sung before last night. And it was such a gift, and also to have our children be a part of that. Thank you all.
Good morning. My name is Bella Yaguda, and I have a great joy to share. My little sister and best friend on the planet, Vida, just got into a grad school program for social work and a job at the same time, and that means I get the great pleasure of having her with me in North Carolina for a few more years. So happy for her, really happy for myself.
A final stone for those joys and sorrows that were not expressed today, but are still just as real and held in our hearts. Let's take a moment and acknowledge the sadness of injury and illness and death that some of us are carrying today for people we love. Let us process the joy of accomplishments and the celebrations of anniversaries and spiritual care and musical celebrations. We are very fortunate to have the balance as we hold and carry the sadness of what takes place in the world. We also have a place of joy and love and support to carry us through. Let's take a moment of silence and hold all of that as we sit together. Amen.
Our sung meditation is number 1031, May I Be Filled with Loving Kindness, in the blue hymnal.
So this morning's reading is an adaptation of a Grimm's fairy tale that was adapted by Anthony Minghella, which I have also adapted to shorten it, but that's how stories go, and that's how we pass them down, and for time, we're not going to do the whole thing. So this is the story of Fear Not, and it comes from a tale called The Boy Who Went Forth to Learn What Fear Was. A long time ago, there was a tailor who had 2 sons. According to their father, one was good. The other, good for nothing. His name was Fear Not, and he was thought to be too dim-witted to even know what fear was. One day his father sent him out to buy buttons, but as soon as he left the house, he got distracted and started playing the fiddle under the window of his sweetheart. His father was so angry when Fear Not came back without the buttons, he threw him out onto the street, tossed a bag of coins at his head, and said, "Do not come back until you have learned something." "I don't know what it means to shudder," said Fear Not. The father didn't think Fear Not even capable of that, so he said, "Fine. If you can learn to shudder, you can come back to my house." So off Fear Not went, and on the road he met a traveler. The traveler agreed to split the coins in Fear Not's purse if he could teach him how to shudder. They agreed, and off they went. They met ogres, trolls, demons, dragons, all with the hope that one of them would give Fear Not such a fright that he would shudder. But each time, Fear Not met the creature with good humor and kindness, convincing each to abandon their haunts and leave the townspeople in peace. Fear Not became known as a gentle warrior. He was given parades and feasts, and people offered him their hand in marriage. But he had not learned to shudder, and so he couldn't enjoy any of the celebrations. Finally, when he had faced every possible fright, he gave up and agreed with the traveler it was time to go home. Poor Fear Not did not know how to face his father. He hadn't learned to shudder, so he was still good for nothing. "But surely you have proven yourself worthy in other ways," said the traveler. "No," said Fear Not, but decided to face his father all the same in defeat. Just as he was approaching the street of his father's house, he heard someone calling his name. It was the father of his sweetheart. She had swooned when she heard that he had left, and she hadn't been able to be woken since. Fear Not rushed to her side, and as he picked up her hand, he saw how lifeless she looked. He felt a terrible sensation. "I've shuddered," said Fear Not. "I've finally shuddered." "Strange," he said. "After all the terrors in the world, the only thing I fear is losing you, my love." And with that, his sweetheart opened her eyes, held him tightly, because she had loved him all along. The end.
And now it is time for our offertory. Freely have we received gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate online, please point your camera at the QR code on the back of the order of service and tap the banner that appears, or there's also information on the church's website. We will now receive the morning offering.
So good morning. I have an old friend that's a storyteller named Len Cabral. And I've seen him tell stories to groups of children and adults, and it's always the same. He begins the same way. He sweeps his dreadlocks over his shoulders. He lifts his arms, and he has a row of bangle bracelets. And when he's about to begin, he clicks the bracelets, and we have entered into a sacred time. And we live in this space together as an audience. It's a shared experience. If he tells the story of how Anansi the spider got a tiny little waist, we all imagine it in our minds, but we've gone on the journey together. We are connected to each other through some invisible membrane that doesn't let go until he says, the end. And then with another click of the bracelet, he releases us from the moment. I worked with Lenny for many, many years, and I once invited him to speak at a school for pregnant teenagers. I expected this event to be a huge success, like it always was. But the audience immediately put up a barrier between themselves and him. This invisible wall as soon as he started speaking. Then they became hostile, and I had to stop the show. It hadn't occurred to me that these young people would be affected in a negative way. I wasn't sensitive to the fact that they needed something very different. My friend Peggy LaConte, a Native American storyteller, was scheduled to speak at the school the next month. And I warned her it could be a very difficult show. But she began by offering the group a quiet prayer. And then she passed around turtle shells. And as she told the story of the turtle's back as a lunar calendar, she explained the process of life through those squares. After the story, she invited the audience to put their hands on the square of the shell that represented the month that they've been carrying their child. And then she invited them to close their eyes and think back, generation after generation, to all the people that ever carried a child in their womb, that everything they are thinking and feeling now has been thought and felt through the ages, that the child they carry is a sacred being, and they are part of the sacred process of life, woven together, century after century, generation after generation. They are weaving the next row in the story of life. These young people were going through a major transition in their lives. They needed something gentle, a story that spoke to their experience and healing to guide them on their journey. A story is a powerful thing. Throughout most of human history, stories explained the lights that lived in the night sky, how the land under our feet came to be, and what all the animals were up to at night when we couldn't see them. We sat around fires and told stories that tried to make sense of who we are and what we are meant to do during our time on this strange and magnificent planet. As communities became more complex, some of our stories started to give a moral framework. Ancient gods and goddesses ruled humans like puppets. Then Adam and Eve hit the scene, and the story of the garden, original sin, and the separation of man from God and nature became the building blocks for our new world order. More prophets were to follow, and the stories shifted and changed as dramatically as land borders. At the same time, other stories strengthened identity and belonging, told of resistance and resilience, provided hope, and showed that healing is possible through many different pathways. We are all shaped by the forces of these stories, culturally and personally. Even though many stories can be fun and entertaining, they still have a powerful effect on our psyche. At an early age, Stories teach us who is good, what talents are valued, who is attractive, and who we should vilify or fear. They teach us who is safe, what is important to the people we love, what is acceptable to do, to say, and to believe. And our stories are shaped by storytellers, shaped by their morals and their perspectives, shaped by their histories, their dreams, their fears. Many of us learn our place in the world through these stories that we've been told. We learn our culture and we learn about ourselves. Our first story is often our birth story. Think how much that shaped you. How many of you know your birth story? Birth stories full of intention and love can shape us on a path of confidence. Stories that paint the circumstances of our birth in a fearful or negative way can have lasting and painful effects on how we see ourselves. Then there's our role in the family. Each of us may have been assigned some type of role to play in our family. If you were assigned the role of the perfect child, do you feel like a failure if you let one ball drop? If you were always viewed as the disappointment, do you still see yourself as nothing? And if you were not assigned a role, did you feel you had to fulfill a role you didn't necessarily choose? Each of these stories can box us in, and they can damage us. If you let go or rejected a story that was assigned to you, how did that change your life? If we feel defined by our stories, just having the desire to change them is not always enough. They are so powerful in our lives. And we may feel they won't just bend to our will, and because how could they? They are based on facts, and those facts don't really change. But actually, we can take a step back and look at those same facts in a different way. Look at our life stories with a lens of interest, intrigue, curiosity, compassion. We can use that lens to form a different image, write a new story that we can live into. Brené Brown said, "When we deny our stories, they define us. When we own our stories, we get to write so many brave new beginnings." While the tales of our ancestors can also have tremendous power and inform beliefs about ourselves based on stories, we can learn to navigate the presence of these ancestors in our lives. Some families may use them to create a moral framework or a series of social expectations. Others may use them as a cautionary tale. But they are so often present in stories that are told and untold. I shared with you the story of Fear Not, a young man labeled as a failure by his father and thrown away. Fear Not left his home and had wonderful adventures. He was respected and revered by everyone who met him, but he still saw himself through the cruelty of his father's words. Those words bore a hole into his heart, and it damaged him. He saw himself as his family had cast him, until he was able to be loved for who he truly was. I have a tendency to wrangle with stories that seem cruel or unjust. And I can get particularly angry at the people who tell those stories that harm other people. These stories cause deep, lasting damage. that cruelty can take on a life of its own and seep down generation after generation. Verse 2 of the Dhammapada says, "He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. In those who harbor such thoughts, hatred will never cease." He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. In those who do not harbor such thoughts, hatred will cease. For hatred does not cease by hatred at any time. Hatred ceases by love. This is an old rule. Stories full of hatred and anger can keep hatred and cruelty alive. In the absence of a story, silence can also keep hate and pain alive. But as the Dhammapada says, hatred ceases by love. This is an old rule. The only way to dissolve the power of a hateful story is to claim resilience in the face of it. Of course, it's hard to let go of the stories that wound us. This is where compassion comes in. A whole heck of a lot of compassion, both for the storytellers and for ourselves, for believing an untrue story about our lives. I feel very fortunate that I come from a family of storytellers. My grandparents in particular have been very generous with sharing stories. My grandfather usually tells fun, colorful stories. My grandmother leans a little more into tragedies. She loves to tell a good tragedy. And I can listen to my grandfather sing and tell stories for days on end. But I usually leave the room or try to change the subject when my grandmother gets going. But over time, I've realized the gift my grandmother has given me. Her stories may be hard to hear, but they give an insight into what her family experienced and how that shaped their behavior, which shaped how they treated her, and that shaped how she behaved. I realized how much one person's damage can continue like a chain reaction, knocking its way into the next generation, shaping story after story. I've learned to appreciate how each generation tried to do better, tried to be better, using the tools they had with the skills that they cultivated. How much effort and love went into each small improvement. Stories are powerful. We are not just shaped by them. Our culture is defined by them. As much as I am grateful for all of the love and hard work that has gotten us to where we are today, when I look around, I still see so much pain and destruction. Just as our individual stories can be cruel, our cultural stories can be cruel. Anger and hatred passed down generation after generation, and they have caused so much violence in the world. They are based in the stories that have been passed down to us, ugly, hateful stories, but hatred ceases with love. Today, in this moment, we have to fight hatred and still try to find compassion, still work from that center point of love, and that can be a sticky wicket. We need a new story, a big, glorious story that changes these patterns. And if you think, how can a story change this? Think about how much power and influence stories of the Abrahamic tradition have had in shaping all of our lives. And that's one example. So this is a great task for artists, for scientists, theologians, for all of us. To imagine new, original, and beautiful stories for our future, for our present. Stories that hold a vision of our individual and collective freedom and have love at the center. May we all put our hand on the turtle shell and remember our place in time, our connection to this world, allowing ourselves to feel the generations that came before us. And may we dream of the generations yet to come. We are the caretakers of this moment. We are weaving the next row in the universal story. May we be able to say that we did our best with the tools we cultivated, and we created something beautiful. Amen.
Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 1051 in the blue hymnal, We Are.
We won't do that, we'll just go right on.
Okay. I'm not doing the repeat.
Child is born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Child is born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We're daughters of dust and the sons of great vision. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We're lovers of light and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Please remain standing in body or in spirit. The words for extinguishing the chalice are in your order of service. Please join me if you wish to do so in reading them. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please join me in thanking all who contributed to making this service so worshipful. And join us in singing Shalom. The words are in your order of service. As you're comfortable, please hold your hands out with your person next to you or cross your arms over your heart.
We
What I want to do is, if you ever do it again, I'd love to